goodness, oh my goodness. Okay, so guys, I'm really excited to do this because I haven't done this in a while, yeah? Like, I feel like I've been going through, like, an identity crisis with this channel because when I first started this channel, I started with reviews. And then, obviously, you guys, if you guys have been with me for ages, you guys know that I've been back and forth with my actual activity on this channel. I started strong and then I stopped, and then I said I'm coming back and then I stopped, and then I came back with a vim, and I was just like drama reporting, and then it turned into like commentaries, and then like I had like a whole month where I gave you guys reviews every day. Like it was super all over the place. And now it's very much like a lot of commentaries. And I really, really do enjoy commentaries because I love research and I love everything I always find. I love the discourse. Oh goodness, I have been having so much fun. But at the end of the day, I also really, really love discussing my books. And like, I don't have people to discuss my books with majority of the time. Me and my friends have started like this mini book club, and you know, it's really cool that I'm finally gonna have like people to discuss, you know, a book with a month, but that's a single book a month. Whereas I have like all these other books that I'm reading, and I'm just like, so what do I do with that? Who I discuss it with? I am not as social as other book content creators and book influencers, so it's not really easy for me to like make friends, especially if like it's digital. I have been reaching out more and like speaking out more, like making, you know, a bit more connections, and it's really been fun, but it's just not normal for me. And so I have you guys and we can have a lot of fun. And I'm just like, Shelly, you have a whole community here on YouTube. Why are you not taking advantage of it? Discuss these books. Discuss these books. And I know, like in my last few commentary videos, I have been giving you guys book reviews in the first few minutes, and I really, really enjoy doing that. But I do want to start making a bit more, you know, book-centric videos where, you know, there are videos that are really just focused on books and what I have to say about them. And I thought, you know, this would be a great thing to start doing, you know, my monthly reviews. I think I stopped doing this because, especially last year when I was in like this perpetual book slump for the entirety of the year, I didn't have much to say. There were some months I read no books. And so I was just like, yeah, there wasn't much to say. And yeah, so it is what it is. I'm out of that book slump. I'm reading more. I'm really, really happy. And so I'm really excited to kind of like start giving you guys, you know, my monthly reads. It is March, and so I'm gonna start in February. I actually read a good amount of books in January. I was so proud of myself. I think I read 9. Yeah, I read about 9. And I was just like, oh my goodness, it's been so long since I've read this many books in a single month. But that was far. That was far. And I can't be asked doing that. So we're going to start from February and go from there. Okay. Now, February was really funny simply because I read so many books in January. I was just like, oh, Shelly, you're back. You're back. Yeah, you're back. And I am back. I really am reading. But because of last year, and you know, all those months of book slumping, and me recognizing that it was probably due to the year before where I read 100 books and there was just, you know, a lot going on everywhere, I decided that following 2024 I'm going to definitely be more intentional with pacing my reads. If there is a book and I read it in a day and then I pick up another book, that's fine. But if there are days where I just want to read a single chapter and that means that I only read like 2 books in a month, that's completely fine. And I've been doing that. And that's really great, which is why I was really surprised for January. But then because that happened in February, I said, oh my goodness, I'm going to read all these books. And so I set out a bunch of books that I was going to read. And if you know me, I am a mood reader. And I also am a multi-reader. I cannot just read one book at a time. I'm one of those people who are reading at least 5 books at a single time. And so I had all these books that I was reading at one time. And I'm going to finish all of them. I didn't. I set out, I think, like 11 or 12 books to finish. I didn't finish near all of it. Like, it's okay. But it's okay. I'm still happy with myself and the books that I did read. And yeah, so today we're just going to like go through all of them. I'm just going to tell you a brief summary of what the book is about and like my ratings. I don't remember my ratings exactly, but I know exactly where I gave it. Like I kind of know around how many stars I gave it and, you know, my thoughts on it. So let's get started. I know this intro was horrendously long, but you guys know I have the gift of the gab. I can talk for ages, and I do apologize, but it is what it is. So let's get right into it. Okay, like I said, me and my friends have started like this mini book club, and our book club pick, or you know, our pick was The Spider King's Daughter by Chibundu Onuzo. And guys. So, one of the things I did say I was going to do this year was read more lit fic, because I have read lit fic before and I do enjoy it. But as you guys know, I do prefer like fantasy and thriller and stuff like that. But my friends read more lit fic. So to find a book that we all kind of would like to read, we set a vote. We put all the book options, and then we chose one. And then this was actually something I suggested because it has been on my list for ages. And okay, so this is set in Nigeria and Lagos. And let me just tell you, yeah, this book, it's okay. Okay, so it's essentially about a young girl called Abike, and Abike lives on the right side of the tracks, as in she's rich in Lagos. She doesn't even venture to the poor side. She's always in her big car, and then one day she comes across a street hawker. And you know what's really, really funny? And I didn't even clock until afterwards. Throughout this entire book, we never learn his actual name. He introduces himself to her as Runner G. He's just like, that's what they call me on the streets, essentially. And it was only later when I was trying to recount his name, and I was just like, what the heck is this boy's name? And I went through the entire book, and I was just like, wait a minute, we were never told. And it was really, really funny. Now, this book was really interesting. So she's rich, he's extremely poor, but he used to be well off. And he came upon hard times after his father died because, there was just too much going on. And then they ended up in basically the rough side of town like that. It was really, really interesting. And it really kind of showed how in the blink of an eye, life can change. But then they start actually forming this type of like, relationship. But it was interesting because she was doing this because she didn't like her friends because they were all rich and they all sucked up to her. But then she created that atmosphere. She made it and so that people suck up to her. Meanwhile, he was just like, okay, why is she entertaining me? Okay, she's cute. I can see it. Let me actually entertain this. And then they start like this little, tentative romance, and it goes on and on and on like that. But we all know it wasn't going to end so sweet. And I think one of the things I really, really enjoyed about this book is that it explored several themes. So it explored the themes of, classism and social inequality. It also explored the theme of like self-discovery with like the hawker struggling with his social status, considering it changed so severely. And he has been in this new social class for a while, but then, he still has to come to grips with the fact that this is his life now. It also looks at power and manipulation, especially with Abike's father, the person with the actual money, and what he's done to get to where he is, and the lessons that he's teaching his daughter in power and manipulation tactics. But there's also like this like theme, and it's not even subtle. I mean, it's subtle at first, but then it becomes very, very obvious as we go on. The themes of like corruption, and honestly, I was just going through it all, and I was just like, in a very, very short book, you packed a lot in. And the thing is, it wasn't just corruption. It was corruption and moral dilemmas. There was the themes of family and betrayal. Like, who are you going to be loyal to? Who are you going to stick beside? Who are you going to believe? Like, honestly, when you read the book, you'll understand what I'm saying. But there was also, like, this inner turmoil that the hawker had because he was of such a, different social class to her. Meanwhile, this Abike girl, first of all, I'm going to tell you now, at least from my standpoint, she wasn't likable. I didn't like her. And then when we get to the end of the book, I still didn't like her. I actually disliked her very much by the end of the book. And I felt for the hawker so much throughout this entire book. Like, she was not a sympathetic character at all. She was very unsympathetic, and he was the complete opposite. So seeing them even come together, it was interesting because I'm just like, please, this is why relationships always kind of like, they always play with me. Because I'm like, you do not know the real person. You can hope that you know the real person, but do you really? And so I was going through the motions with this book. But yeah, I thought it was good. But the one thing is, this book is dual perspective. So we get Abike and the hawker's perspective. Bruh, there is not a clear, like, demarcation. There is no way for you to tell. Obviously, you can tell because, like, they kind of change the text. So when it's Abike, they make it italic. But I was just like, for the first, I think, chapter, I was thrown aback. I was just like, wait, when did we change perspective? Because this is not, and this is not. It was weird. It was weird at first. Around like chapter like 3, you get used to it and you know exactly what's going on. But it was weird. It was a weird game. But you do get used to it. I think the storytelling was good. I was just like, I think there were a few things that they could have delved in a bit more, especially in the end. It all happened so fast. And I was just like, no, 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 no. Slow down, slow down, slow down. Me and the girls were even discussing, like, wait, da 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 da. Like, what happened here? There were a few things that I don't think were explained as well. Like, they kind of just alluded to a few things. Like, there were a lot of open questions by the end of this book with some of the characters and some of the situations that happened. And you're just sat there like, wait a minute, how did we get here? How did he get there? And so there were some things that I'm just like probably weren't wrapped up as well as I would like. And just the ending, and this is why I don't like lit fic too much, because lit fic don't got the element of it's all fake, we get a happy ending. Now it's like, this is the real world, essentially. It's not real people, but they can be real people. And I know that that can happen in fantasy, and, you know, it can happen in all those other genres. But lit fic keep it a bit too real for me. And the thing is, lit fic does keep it a bit real, but I've had lit fic that, you know, end happy. This ending just pissed me off. It pissed me off. It really did. It wasn't a sad ending, but it wasn't a happy one either, not to me. It pissed me off. I'm sorry. And I like happy endings. I've had fantasy books kill everyone in the process, and yet I was still I was content, okay? I won't say I was happy, but I was content. This one pissed me off, okay? And I'm gonna just read at your own risk. I will say it's a good book, it's an interesting story, but it pissed me off. And I think it was because I didn't like one of the main characters. I did not like Abike. I did not like her, okay? End of discussion. I didn't like her. But I do think it was a good read. It was an okay read, yeah? But like I said, with the confusion between the dual perspectives, and just the way in some things were not made clear, I didn't give it the highest rating. I was like 3.75, you're okay. But I'm just like, you missed the mark in some aspects. But like I said, I really do enjoy how it explored so many themes, especially these themes were really, those themes, I was just like, oh, it really made me think. But yeah, I think, it missed the mark in some aspects. So yeah, good book, could have been better. Now let's go on to our next book of the month. Now the next book, oh my goodness. So it was a middle grade book, and you guys do know that there is a special place in my heart for middle grade, especially because it's a middle grade fantasy. So it already, yeah, I'm so sorry. I feel like you can already see my bias, but it is what it is, yeah? And it was Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. Now, this book, I had it in my wish list for ages, because I kept seeing people say, oh my goodness, it was so good, like, oh, okay. And me, I love dragons, okay? And so in my head, I was just like, okay, this book is already going to bring me in because there was a dragon, like, right there. But then, it went above and beyond the dragons for me. Let me actually give you guys a bit of a synopsis about what this book is about. It's about this young boy. His name is Christopher, and his father is, unfortunately, his mother is dead. He lives with his father, and his father is dropping him off with his grandfather for the summer because I believe his father has to travel for work or something or other. That was the intro, and I kind of forgot. But basically, he goes to his grandfather, and his grandfather, is kind of estranged. Like, it doesn't seem like his grandfather and his father have the best relationship for reasons we kind of find out a bit later. But yeah, essentially, he goes with his grandfather, and his grandfather gives him strict instructions. You can go everywhere, Don't go over that ridge. Don't go over that ridge. But Christopher, I believe Christopher is 10. Basically, he's a child. He's not a teenager yet. Maybe 10 or 12, one of the two. 14? Bruh, my mind goes everywhere, especially with things like that. But anyway, like, he's young anyway. Oh yeah, I think he is 14, actually. Yeah, I think he is. And then, yeah, he don't listen, and he goes, and he basically discovers a mythical creature. I kid you not, he discovers a griffin. Yeah, a griffin. Yeah. And so basically he discovers this griffin, he brings it to the house, and he's just like, look what I found. And the grandfather was just like, you went over the ridge, didn't you? Yeah. And then it's not just about Christopher. So this book is also about this young girl named Mal. I believe she is younger than Christopher. I think she's 12 or 10. So if Christopher is 14, she's 12. If Christopher is 12, she's 10, I'm pretty sure there's like a 2-year age difference between them, but they don't really focus on the ages. But basically, she lives in another place, a place where magic is known and magic is very, very, like, in the open. And one day, one stranger comes and just starts attacking, killing, attempted killing anyway, and she runs away, obviously. And then we switch perspectives again because we get multiple perspectives as well. But the thing is, it's all told in third person. But yeah, so it switches back to Christopher's perspective, and the grandfather is not fazed at all by this living griffin, this living mythological creature before him, and it all goes to hell from there. The grandfather then explains to Christopher that the magical world actually exists, and it exists in like over that ridge. You know, there's a little portal that you can go through over that ridge, which is why he told Christopher, don't go over that ridge, because sometimes some things escape from the, you know, from the portal and comes into the real world. But the whole thing is his family, Christopher's family, you know, on the grandfather's side, is responsible for like guarding the break between the magical world and the, you know, not the real world, but the non-magical world. So they're basically guardians, and the role was meant to pass on to Christopher's mother, and then it would have passed on to Christopher. Yeah, so you know, the grandfather's kind of just like, you know, reminiscing and all that, and then so he tells Christopher da 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 da, and then Christopher doesn't listen again, goes over to the ridge, and then he discovers Mal. Turns out the griffin belongs to Mal. And then Mal is just like, someone just tried to kill me, bro. You have to come with me. Are you the guardian? And then he's just like, well, my grandfather is. And then he's like, well, you have to come with me and you have to help me. And then Christopher is just like, well, this is the adventure of a lifetime. And so he goes with her. I'm like, go and retrieve your grandfather. This is not your role, sir. He goes with her. So he goes, enters the magical world, which is known as the archipelago, by the way. I just feel like I haven't said that. And oh my goodness, it is fun. One of the reasons I love this book so much, I know I didn't tell you the full summary, but basically they go on an adventure. Mal is being chased. We find out why she's being chased a bit later. We find out the history of the world. They discover this guy who basically starts transporting them to where they need to be, because Mal is just like, we need to go to this place because creatures are dying, people are killing me, la da da da. He starts with them, but he ends up staying with them. A lot of things happen, but basically they go on an adventure because right now the magical world is in danger because the magical creatures are dying, and the magic in the world is kind of like shiki. And then Mal still doesn't know why this person is out to kill her, but then they obviously eventually kind of connect the dots and figure out why. You'll figure out why as well. But they go on this adventure. They have to figure out a way to save the world and also stop Mal from being like attacked and killed, essentially. And then we get to the end. Yay! A lot happened. For a children's book, I didn't expect some of the things that happened. I was just like, isn't it meant to be a bit chiller? It wasn't like gruesome in the sense that they weren't visual with some of the things that happened. But I was just like, damn, y'all didn't hold back with some of the realism. Like, come on, like. Ain't y'all meant to, like, have kids have hope and not believe in death and stuff like that? It was wild. But essentially, what I love about this book, I do love that we get, like, multiple perspectives. But I also love that, remember I said I fell in love with this book initially because I saw the dragon. But when they say impossible creatures, they mean impossible creatures. There was just a plethora of magical creatures just thrown in every chapter. Like, they had sphinxes, they had mermaids, but not just mermaids. They had everything. And at the back of the book, you basically get like not really a glossary, but yeah, like basically a glossary of all the magical creatures that are mentioned. And do you see the pages I'm turning? There were creatures in here. Now, obviously, there were some creatures that, were just there for a scene, and some creatures that were recurring came back, da 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 da. The funny thing is about this book, dragons weren't the main focus, okay? Like, we just kept seeing a bunch of different creatures, and then we saw dragons here and there, like literally towards the end, not that much. And they all had like different, it was so fun. And the thing is, this book was so well written. And I think what was great about this book was the story itself. I think, yeah, obviously from the beginning, I was just like, this plot is interesting, but the way the story was told, like the rising and falling action, and the way that we went along with them on their journey, and even the dilemmas, the personal dilemmas that, the characters were facing. I was just like, oh my goodness. And then the way that they actually built the world building, I think, in this book was really, really lovely. Like I said, they already have a lot of creatures, but even like the landscapes, the places that they visit, I think that was really good. And the history, like the history was, magic and why the world is separated from the non-magical world. Like, honestly, the way that they were able to incorporate all of these different factors and actually tell the story in such a comprehensive manner, I was like, this book is really well told. It's really amazing. Like, if you're looking for a middle grade book, whether for yourself or for your kid or for someone who who's young, I do not care. Read it. It's really, really lovely. I gave it a 4.75. Now, I know with all this screaming, you're wondering, why didn't you give it a higher rating? And it's because, and I do this with middle grade books a lot, not just middle grade books, just books in general. Like, if you have an ending that I believe is a bit too rushed, I won't like it. Like, I gave it a 5-star initially, but I was just, I don't really like that. Like, it's not I didn't like the ending. The ending was nice, and it fit into everything, but the way when we were heading to the climax and it got to the climax, I was just like, oh. And then the way that they came to the resolution, I said, the heck? That was a bit too quick. I said, no. Like, it made sense, and it actually worked in the grand scheme of things. Like, it actually worked really well. But I was just like, it still happened a bit too snappy for me, like the actual moment of the resolution. And I was just like, I don't really like that. I don't really like that. You get a 4.75. Like, I'm deducting marks for that. You'll see what I mean when you get there. But then that happened, and I was just like, But the thing is, what I loved about this book is I was reading it, and all throughout reading it, I was convinced that this book is gonna have a sequel, that this book is a series. I knew in my heart. I'm telling you now, I was convinced. I knew for a fact that it was a multi-series book. I knew it. And then we get to the end, and I'm just like, wait, is this the end? This is giving end, like, we can't go on from here. I mean, we can, but, like, we can't. And so I just sat there like, wait a minute. Like, what the heck is I said, no. You know what? I don't care how you finna do it, but find a way to get a second book. No, I want to revisit this world. I want to go on adventures again. And no, it can't be finished. It can't be finished. No. It was really good, guys. This is one of the reasons why I miss doing review videos, because I get really excited and, like, I get, like, all, like, you guys could tell, like, basically, like, incoherent and crazy. And it's like I'm doing a rant, but it's not a rant, because I mean, it is a rant, but, like, it's a happy rant, I guess. And yeah, I miss doing reviews for this reason alone. At the same time, it's one of the reasons I don't want to do reviews, because when I write my reviews, I can, my thoughts come out, in a more comprehensive, more understandable manner. And when I speak, it's basically gibberish. And I'm just like, you wouldn't think that I've been reading for years. You wouldn't think that I have 2 degrees. You wouldn't think that I know English, period. Like, I just can't speak. Like, I jumble up my words. It's actually chaotic. Me being a YouTuber on a whole, I think is chaotic, because, like I said, my words come out better when I'm writing. When I'm speaking, honestly, God speak to me. But yeah, this book was great. Absolutely amazing. It really, it missed the 5 stars simply because of that ending. But outside of that, and there were moments where I was just like, those kids are annoying me. But then I remembered, Shelly, you answered your own statement, even though it wasn't a question. They're kids, and then obviously they were so lovable. And the cast of characters, I think, were amazing. Was amazing. But yeah, guys, I really, really loved Impossible Creatures, and I do think I'll now start hunting down a few Catherine Rendell books, because if all her books are like this, then yeah, I'm totally for it, 100%. But yeah, on to the next book. I don't know why I'm already in tears from, like, laughing. Guys, oh God. Okay. Please have mercy on me, because I just can't, okay? So the next book is Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maher. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, forgive me. Okay, so this is the second book to the Assistant to the Villain, which was released, I think, last year or the year before. But essentially, yeah, this series came about from basically TikTok skits. So Hannah Nicole Maher basically used to do TikTok skits about being an apprentice, like an assistant to a villain, and all that would go on, the errands that she would go through, everything that she would the skits are funny. And then somehow it turned into a publishing deal and a book. Now, I won't even lie to you, I don't know how that happened. Like, I know now more than ever there are authors who are being discovered from TikTok, whether they already had published the book and they were indie publishers and now they're just being traditionally published, or whether they hadn't even published before and they're just being, discovered. Like, Andy Darcy Theo is one of them. Like, he's amazing. He's a great book talker. The one thing I will say is that Andy was speaking about his books ever since he started, that was his passion. We all knew that Andy was going to get that book out by fire, by force. Like, he was already, like, planning to self-publish. Like, he went through the full process, and then it ended up getting traditionally published, and we're all really, at least I know I'm happy for him, like, because the passion that Andy has for this book, like, he spoke about how he had been writing this book for like 10 years, and he put in work, and his book is great. Haven't finished, but it's great. But the thing is, yeah, so, and like, I know a lot more people are getting picked up from TikTok, but then I feel like it came out of just publishers recognizing that she has a fan base and that this was a good premise, and then she wrote a book, and then that can be seen in the book. I did a review on the first book, Assistant to the Villain, and I described it as no plot, just vibes. I did. Because it was. The thing is, I think people need to understand that there are some books that are like, just immaculate in terms of like the writing, the story, the plot, the characters, just everything about that book is absolutely amazing. And there are some books that are really just for vibes. And you can love both equally. You can. I have given books that are really full on just vibes. I've given them high ratings, but I've given them high ratings with an asterisk that says that this was just vibes. We're not gonna speak about the plot. And the thing is, the first book, it did have plot. It's the plot started to develop later on in the book, but like I said, it was mostly vibes. This this second book, yeah, guys, please. So they continue on with the bare minimum plot development that was started in the first book. The story, though, I was just okay. If you don't know, Assistant to the Villain is about this young girl named Evie, and then one day she stumbles in a forest, and then she basically helps the villain. That's how he's known as the villain, by the way. Like, escape people who were capturing him, and she starts working in his office as his assistant, right? And like I said, the first book was all vibes, no plot. The plot started to develop later, but most of it was just vibes. And in the end of the first book, basically, a lot happened. There was a battle, and there's a lot of panic. I don't want to spoil the first book, so I can't say too much, but something happens essentially. And the second book picks up from there. I mean, we don't spend too much time in the aftermath of what happened. I'll guess like maybe 60, 70 pages just about. And we continue on. But when I tell you that this book has no plot and barely any story, this book is essentially just her crushing on her boss and him crushing on her, and then both of them rejecting their feelings. And this book relied heavily on just cliches and tropes. And even then, I was just like, what type of storytelling is this? Let me tell you, throughout this entire book, I was getting so annoyed because it was really just a case of him just like fawning over her in his mind, her fawning over him in her mind, him saying, she can't be with me, I'm going to ruin her. Her saying, oh, I'm sure he doesn't even have feelings for me. And then it all comes to a head, and then they continue on with a bit of the plot and the story. They continue on with the action. Because then, I kid you not, that was majority of the book for like the first half of the book. And then the second half was where they try to continue on with the story, start developing the plot anymore. But this is my point. Because they're so focused on the romance side, they just start throwing things in there, bro. And you're just over here like, the heck? Enough. That being said, yeah, I did like it. I liked it, but I didn't. It's really hard for me with books that don't have sufficient plot and like poor storytelling. Because, you get on with the vibes, but then, like I said, the writing was atrocious. Like, it was absolutely atrocious. It just relied on, oh God, guys. It was very much a book that relied, like I said, on the cliches and the tropes. And then it was very much a tell instead of a show. Like, they were over explaining everything, over explaining their feelings, over explaining their trauma, over explaining everything. I was just like, bruh, enough. I was getting sick of it at that point in time. But there's something about books that like aren't the strongest, aren't written the best, that grab you, I think it's the cliches. They're cliches for a reason. We enjoy cliches. So what happened is, like, the first half of the book, I was kind of just like, I would read a chapter a day, a few chapters a day, like right before I go to sleep, just for vibes. And then I took this book with me to Prague, and when I was reading it on the plane, it actually started getting not interesting, but like they started like killing off the stupid back and forth with their emotions. And there was one, like I said, it came to blows, it came to a head, and I'm just like, okay, finally, great. And then that's when they started like moving the story along, and then like started developing the plot again. And then I'm just like, okay, now that you're starting to develop the plot, this can go somewhere. And so I read it like I read the rest, like the last like 30% of the book that night. But like I said, this series, because there's a third book coming out, the first two books very much Very much vibes. Very much vibes. Does that mean I didn't enjoy it? No, it doesn't, because I did enjoy it. I did. I did. But in terms of enjoying it, for what reason? The reason is not the right thing. That's all I have to say. I'm so sorry. And because of that, I gave it like, I think a 3-star or 3.5 or 3.25. It was somewhere there, but it you know, I think maybe 3.25, because actually no, I think it was a 3. I think it was a solid 3. Because what the heck was going on in this book? Yeah. Just vibes. Just vibes. And you know what? That's okay. And I think we need to accept the fact that there are some books that are not the best written that we're going to really enjoy, and that's okay. I think it takes a small person to not be able to acknowledge that, because I enjoyed this book. I did, but the second half, the first half was definitely getting on my nerves. But I did enjoy the book. Like I said, so many cliches. It was getting on my nerves. So many cliches. The writing was on trash, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I think you have to just be able to admit that you enjoy things that probably aren't the best all the time. It is what it is. It is what it is. All vibes, no plot. Even the story was missing, because God. But yeah, it is what it is. Now down to the very last book that I completed this month. It is The Pursuit of God by A.W. Tozer. Now, this was a reread because I read this a few years ago. It was a reread because my my fellowship group, we started reading it together, and then that kind of fell off. But I'm just like, well, I'm really kind of motivated to continue and get to the end. So I read it on my own. Now, this was absolutely amazing. Like, I've spoken on this channel before how I am a really, really devout Christian. And one thing that's really, really important, is about edifying your own spirit and building yourself up in the Word. And you do that, obviously, with the Word of God, but also with other resources, books written by other Christians, theologians, all that. And I really enjoyed this book because it really kind of quickened my spirit. Now, I know if you're not a Christian, that I'm using words that are kind of just like, what the heck is she saying? But if you are a Christian, then you know that you know what I mean when I say quicken my spirit, as in it was like a call to action through the words. It definitely was a lot of conviction in this book as well, which conviction is always interesting, because like, you can say that you love it because you're just like, this is going to make me a better Christian, it's going to make me a better person who can love Christ and love his people better. But at the same time, you're kind of just like, why'd you call me out like that? Like, what do I look like to you? Like, why are you calling me out? Like, who the heck do I look like? Like, who do you think you're talking to like that? In the book as well, right? When books are just like, you're just like, rude. Like, take me out to dinner, okay? Hold my hand when you speak to me like that, okay? And The Pursuit of God was like that. It very much is a book that calls you out every step of the way. All it does is yell at you. And I was just there like, I'm listening, but I'm highly offended. And I'm not offended, but I'm really motivated. And it's great. It's great. I came out of it and I was just like, I was so happy to have gone through this reread, especially because I'm just like, okay, now I'm more mature as a Christian. Now I understand things more. Now I've gone through a lot, and a lot of the words in the book, I was just like, they mean more to me now, or I can relate to them more now. And I'm just like, oh goodness, younger you, when you were reading this, it's different now. And so yeah, I really, really absolutely enjoyed this book. So if you are a Christian looking for a book that will quicken your spirit, convict you, and honestly snatch you up by every hair follicle you got, then yeah, do be sure to pick up this book. And just be ready, if anything, to pick up this book. It's not child's play. It's not child's play. But yeah, it was a really lovely 5 stars all the way around. And it was literally only 100 pages. But the thing is, it took ages to read, because I could only read like a chapter a day most days, because just from one chapter, it was like a slap to the face. I was getting attacked by a book. But also, obviously, the Holy Spirit was convicting me through the reading of this book. So yeah, it was great. And one thing I love about Tozer is that he's not speaking from thought. Everything he said was backed by scripture. And I was just like, I can't even accuse you of, attacking me, with no foundation. Nah, there was a lot of foundation to what you were saying. There was foundation, not just foundation, the bricks were built. It was insane. But yeah, it was a great book to read throughout the month, and I'm really, really happy that I got to read it. But yeah, those are the books that I read for this month. Like I said, I had like 11 or 12 books picked out to read, and we got nowhere. But I'm happy. I'm really, really happy that you know, even with these 4 books I read, I really enjoyed them. And I love that I took my time and I paced myself. And I'm really, really happy with how I've come out at the end. You know, we had some good reads. We had some, you know, some middle of the thingy reads. But yeah, it was absolutely amazing. But yeah, guys, yeah, like I said, I do think I'm going to keep doing my end of the month reads. You know, just a summary of the books I read. I'm going to try to do better with my timing, because what the heck, why have I been speaking about only 4 books for this much time? But yeah, like, I had a great time. And let me know, have you read any of these books? Are any of these books on your radar? And let me know as well, how many books did you read in February? Like, was that the goal that you were hitting, or did you not set goals at all? Just let me know. I always love hearing. And as much as, you know, we love to, you know, discuss a bunch and have, you know, our commentary discourse, having just, you know, regular discussions about books as well is so fun. So yeah, let me know everything. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the comments. Bye.